A month after Thomas Murphy was found guilty of driving drunk and killing 12-year-old Boy Scout Andrew McMorris, he was back in court, where his sentencing was scheduled for March 17th.
It's just getting harder. The grief veil is left, and we want this to be over. And this is another delay, getting closer to my child's birthday.
The criminal case just continues to delay our healing, to delay our grieving, and this is torturous to us. We pray for strength and healing every single day.
McMorris was hiking with other scouts in Manorville when Murphy drove into the group. Several were injured. Prosecutors said Murphy had spent the morning drinking on a golf course. In December, he was found guilty on all counts. Tuesday's court appearance was a brief one. In addition to scheduling the sentencing date, the judge denied a motion from the defense, a motion called a trial order of dismissal.
Which is basically a motion indicating that this evidence was not legally sufficient to go to the jury.
Murphy is facing a maximum sentence of 8 1/3 to 25 years behind bars.
We do believe that we have a lot of, valid, viable, strong issues for appeal, and there are some still being developed. So we're going to obviously seek that he not begin to do a sentence that we feel ultimately he will not serve.
The McMorrises plan on speaking at the sentencing and are asking for letters to the court.
We ask people that if this has touched them, to let them have their say. Everyone deserves to see how this ripple effect of a tsunami of event has affected our community, affected our world.
Elisa McMorris says her son will not be forgotten and his death will not be in vain. Reporting from Central Islip, Cecilia Dowd for Newsday. The sentencing of Thomas Murphy, the Holbrook man convicted in the death of Boy Scout Andrew McMorris, abruptly postponed amid allegations of juror misconduct.
It's been 700 days since Andrew passed, and we still can't get justice. This is cruel and unusual and despicable what they're doing to us.
Murphy was found guilty in December of driving drunk into a group of Boy Scouts, killing 12-year-old McMorris and injuring others. The McMorris family outraged by the delay. Not the first in the case.
It's mean. It's just mean. Take your sentence. Give some honor back to your family. And let Andrew rest in peace.
Murphy's attorney, Stephen Politi, calls the alleged juror misconduct egregious.
The 4 jurors who signed statements indicated that not only did they discuss the case, but that none of them went and told the court that it was being discussed. There's allegations that they read the newspaper accounts, which they were forbidden to do, and various other things.
The crash happened in 2018 on David Terry Road in Manorville, where the scouts were hiking. Prosecutors alleged Murphy had spent the morning drinking vodka at a golf club. Politi says after the verdict, new evidence emerged that might help his client.
Individuals who were present on David Terry Road have indicated that they witnessed the boys in the street just prior to the accident, and that they had to swerve out of the way, and that they were surprised at the haphazard manner in which the group was walking down the public road.
Asked about the defense's strategy, Suffolk County District Attorney Timothy Sini answered, delay.
Mean-spirited. They want to keep their client out of prison for as long as possible.
A hearing which prosecutors consented to has been set for next month.
We have to make the right decision for the case in the long run. We can't make short-sighted decisions. This conviction must stick forever.
As for the alleged juror misconduct,
we are opposing the motion, and we are extremely confident that justice will prevail.
And prosecutors are rejecting the alleged new evidence.
We urge the judge to deny that portion of the motion without a hearing.
Sini says they'll seek the maximum sentence, 8 1/3 to 25 years. Meanwhile, Politi is expressing confidence the verdict will be set aside.
If the judge hears the evidence the way I think it's going to come out, I believe the judge will grant my motion to set aside the verdict, and then hopefully Tom can get a fair trial.
Speaking through grief and anger, the McMorrises described their ordeal.
I have nothing else left. This is completely outrageous. And to put a victim's family through this is unconscionable.
We pray every day. We embody Andrew's spirit as much as we can to get us through this hell.
Cecilia Dowd for Newsday.
There's not much to say other than this is impossible to bear. I didn't think that my heart could shatter more.
Jurors in the Thomas Murphy case returned to the Riverhead courthouse where he was convicted on all counts, this time for a hearing on alleged juror misconduct. Murphy was found guilty in December of driving drunk and crashing into a group of Boy Scouts, killing 12-year-old Andrew McMorris. The day packed with heated exchanges between the judge and Murphy's attorney, Stephen Politi, who was held in contempt of court and fined $1,000. 18 jurors, including alternates, showed up to the courthouse to testify, but one was turned away, following coronavirus questions asked of everyone before entrance is granted. That juror had recently been in contact with a family member who traveled to a state on the quarantine list. Politi, who argued the hearing shouldn't be held during a pandemic, wanted a postponement. He said that particular juror was the second person he wanted to call. The judge repeatedly asked Politi who he'd be calling as his first witness, ultimately warning if the next words out of his mouth weren't related to that, he'd be held in contempt. And he was.
I was trying to make a record for my client, which I believe I'm entitled to do. Court held me in contempt. What are you going to do?
Of the 6 jurors, including alternates who testified Wednesday, 3 spoke of comments they'd heard. Jurors purportedly speaking about the case before deliberations began, a violation of the judge's regular orders. One testified that a juror had admitted to reading about the case in a newspaper, which the juror in question later denied. Another testified that a fellow juror commented on the testimony of one of the experts, disagreeing with the terminology used by the expert. A third testified that there were occasions jurors would start to make comments on testimony, saying things like, "That wasn't right," and she and another juror would shush them.
The amount of trauma that was caused by Mr. Murphy killing our son in a brutal and senseless manner was immeasurable. But they have compounded that trauma that we go through every single day, compounded upon doublefold.
Politi was asked to comment on what the McMorris family is being put through, what they've described as hell.
I feel awful for the victim's parents. I feel awful for the little boy. But that doesn't affect my job. I have a job to do. It's to represent Mr. Murphy and to make sure he gets a fair trial.
An emotional John McMorris said they will see this through.
Somehow we will march on. But this path is the worst nightmare we've ever had in our life.
When holding Stephen Politi in contempt of court, Judge Fernando Camacho said he's never done that in his 23 years. He said, "That is not who I am." Now the hearing continues Thursday morning here in Riverhead. Cecilia Dowd for Newsday.
They're muddying the waters. Let's not forget that man was drunk. He got into his car and drove when he had a chance not to. He didn't have to drive drunk. And he plowed into the Boy Scouts, killing my son. Let's not forget about that. This jury misconduct, it's just a deception. He's muddying the waters. He's trying to divert the attention away.
We just want to know the truth and what happened. And at this juncture, it appears that many of the people have seen others speak about the trial testimony, but not one juror has yet to come in and be the juror who was actually speaking about it. So that kind of raises some eyebrows as to who's telling the truth here. September 29, the final witness will testify, and then at some point after that, I believe the court will make its decision.
What's important is that we had a trial and the facts were revealed and they were deliberated by jurors and a decision was made on December 18th, a long time ago. And now this is going into September 29th.
What's important is that the rights of all defendants are preserved. And this is a country that affords people rights. And all I'm trying to do is make sure my client's rights are protected. It's nothing more than that.
have with you?
This weekend is supposed to be my son's 8th grade confirmation. It was delayed for COVID, so our minister brought the robe, and it was going to go in the car because we're going to hang the empty robe in church. And he brought it today, and I felt like I needed to hold it to keep him close, because today's very hard. Even though it was short, very hard, because it feels like we're being dragged through like hot coals, like literally hot coals. Yesterday, I was sitting up and moving around because I have back pain, and back pain is getting worse right now. And I feel like we're under the microscope. And my son's legacy is under a microscope.
Okay. What did you think of what the 3 jurors said today, denying any improprieties?
I think that we have an excellent jury. The judge has said it a number of times that they're honest people that want to serve justice and do the right thing. And we want them to do the right thing. We want them to do justice. This is a horrible experience for not only our family, the Murphy family, and hundreds of other kids in our district and friends of Andrew's. No one comes out a winner when this is all over. I wish I could visit my son somewhere, but I have to go to a grave to visit him.
I think one of the things that is really difficult for us is that we're grieving our son, and we're going to be grieving our son for the rest of our lives. We are faced with a life sentence without Andrew. We don't get a postponement with our sentence. We don't get an adjournment. There's no hearing. We don't get to see our son ever again. And it's due to that man's actions that day, and he needs to be held accountable. It's so hard for us to grieve properly when you have these hearings, when you have these postponements, and when you have these sessions in court. We can't take a step forward with our grieving, which we want to do. And we grieve through action. We want to do good things for our community and give back. And that's how we grieve. And to have these things just stalls that grieving. And it's torturous. And it's despicable what's going on. What's happening in this court is a complete farce of the system.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the ceremony, Mrs. McMorris? What church it will be held at?
It'll be at the church where the funeral is held, Trinity at Islip. And it's a private, closed ceremony just for the families. And we'll sit there and celebrate all the other wonderful confirmants. And there'll be a flag and an empty robe for Andrew. And we'll all honor those who have passed and carry them with us. And what we want others to do is to do the right thing, be a good person, and carry it forward. We don't want this to be something people are scared of. We want them to carry it.
And this will be Saturday?
Never in my wildest dreams did I think that we would be coming up on the 2nd anniversary of the worst day of our lives and have to participate in this way. We want tomorrow to be a day of remembrance for Andrew. We hope that maybe it's meant to be.
Basically, we have, a lot of witnesses coming in here, some accusing a lot of other people of wrongdoing, nobody admitting to talking, but a whole lot of talking going on. I believe that what transpired deprived my client of a fair trial. It's pretty clear to me that juror number 2 was discussing the testimony of a witness who, during the trial, who he disagreed with. And that was an enormous witness for the defense. You heard a juror come in there today and say that every one of their witnesses was a liar except for the kids. You heard another juror tell the judge, you mistreated Mr. Politi. He didn't tell him, he wrote it in an affidavit. You cut him off. You interrupted him. You were biased towards the defense. You favored the prosecution. This is a juror statement who watched the 5.5 weeks of trial every day. And then what happens? I get held in contempt for trying to make a record.
So what we've always said is that we'll try to make September 30th a positive day, to take the worst day of our lives and do something positive with it, to give back to our communities, to honor our son. We pray that tomorrow turns out to be a positive one, but we stand strong and will continue to persevere, to honor our son and do good things in his name.
Exactly 2 years after the crash that killed 12-year-old Andrew McMorris and injured other Boy Scouts, Thomas Murphy was sentenced to the maximum of 8 1/3 to 25 years behind bars.
We have 2 broken families here. We have a life sentence we have to learn how to live with, but we're going to carry on in honoring our son, in doing good work for him, in his memory.
We are all broken. We hope today's decision is a deterrent for all of those out there. Our number one cause is for this to never happen to another family.
In December, Murphy was convicted of driving drunk and crashing into the group of scouts, killing McMorris. They'd been hiking in Manorville. Prosecutors said the Holbrook man had spent the morning drinking at a golf course. Murphy didn't address the court prior to his sentencing, but his attorney did. He said Murphy believes he was not intoxicated, calling the crash an accident. Andrew McMorris' sister, Arianna, speaking to reporters for the first time, said there are no winners today.
Andrew did not come back to life. Thomas and the other Boy Scouts did not recover from their injuries. And Thomas Murphy is going to prison and getting his earthly consequences for the actions and wrongdoings he committed.
In my opinion, should have been locked up 2 years ago. He's been letting this family suffer for far too long.
This was a difficult process for everyone, but today justice was served.
Members of the McMorris family and one of the scouts who was injured gave emotional victim impact statements describing the horrors of the day that forever changed their lives. As Murphy was being led away after he was sentenced, his wife yelled to her husband, "Tom, you hang in, Tom." She then collapsed in the hallway, receiving medical attention. Murphy's sentencing had been delayed by a hearing on allegations of juror misconduct. The defense wanted a new trial, but the judge denied the motion. Murphy's attorney, Stephen Politi.
If you look at my client, which is the focus, how do you sentence a man like that to 8 1/3 to 25? So of course it's not fair. Nothing's been fair.
And he claims his innocence still.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So no, it hasn't been fair, but that's for the appellate division to rule on now.
The judge said by all accounts, Thomas Murphy led a decent, good life, but said there have to be consequences.
It's 2 years too long, but it's done. And tonight, as we did last year, we're going to celebrate our son for our foundation so we can preserve his legacy for years to come. The Andrew McMorris Foundation.
Cecilia Dowd for Newsday.